why use Illustrator and not Photoshop for type design. And I have my
own.
Oh,
that's a great question.
I have a ton of answers for that.
Great
but,
question.
Yeah, that was something I saw.
If you're trying to set large bodies of type and you're trying to move it around, you want precision and all that kind of stuff, I would recommend one of two tools for right now: Illustrator or InDesign. Photoshop is a image manipulation program. Yes, you can typeset in it. I do not recommend that. I would not do it that way. And some of you guys that are building web pages and you're thinking, well, it's going to wind up in Photoshop anyways, I don't want to do double the work. There are workarounds to this. For example, if you work really intelligently in layers in Illustrator, you can export the entire file with live type into Photoshop, and you can update it as you go if you need to. And you want the accuracy and the precision to be able to zoom in, line things up, and there are more controls for you within Illustrator versus Photoshop. Now, some of you guys would say, well, Illustrator is actually not a good page layout tool. I've been able to make it work for lots of designs. Is it the best tool? Maybe not. I used to use Quark Express. I don't know if Quark still exists today, but InDesign is a good substitute for that. And it's very similar in terms of its interface to Illustrator. You should be able to pick that up really quickly. Emily and Molly, what do you prefer, InDesign or Illustrator for doing layouts?
I prefer InDesign for layouts, but because it snaps to grids. The grids in InDesign are great, and Illustrator you kind of have to make it.
Yeah, they're not that precise, right?
Yeah.
Emily?
I typically use InDesign, but recently we've been having clients that want us to do it in Sketch.
Okay, for web stuff.
Right, and it's really easy and really convenient because it snaps better than InDesign.
That's a really good. Those are all very good responses. So basically use a tool that you're most comfortable with, that is most purpose-built for the task at hand. If you're going to go into web, Sketch seems like a great place to go because you can prototype really fast. I know Sang, he'll come on one of our shows soon because he's using Sketch a lot to do a lot of the web design. And it's saving us the steps from going from Illustrator to Photoshop to coding. It's just a mess. So we're streamlining the entire process. I think that's a great way to go. I'm using Keynote because Keynote, as now we're hearing a theme, it snaps. It's intelligent in terms of the spacing. So if I move two things apart, it knows the third one should be the same distance apart. And it does that for you, whereas Illustrator doesn't do that. I noticed that in the latest version of Photoshop, it's getting smarter. It's starting to know it should line up to things. So it starts to snap to things, and I think that's important. So that saves me from building out a grid and making sure everything lines up.
I mean, a lot of this type stuff a lot of the references that you're showing to me are like so artistic. Like I would actually print that up, put that on my wall. Like to me, it's a form of art. And this is more of a business question because when I present something that's really creative like this to a client, they don't understand that. Like they don't see the correlation between, okay, so you're a typography master. You understand how to, create these really meaningful and cool designs, but like you're trying to pitch the client on doing something creative. And I understand using typography as like visual hierarchy to like, have specific things pop maybe in an ad. But how do you pitch that to a client that just doesn't understand that, where they're like, yeah, I just want to use the stock photo, and can we just have our typography like super clear and clean?
Right. That's a great question. Awesome question, Aaron Pearson. Thank you for asking that. So here's how I want to answer that question. The first thing I want to say is this, is that I don't think we should expect to be paid to make our art. And there's a way to bridge that gap between what you think the clients are willing to go for and what you would like to go for. And you have to do it in a very strategic manner. What I would suggest is before you design anything is to gauge the temperature, the tolerance that the client has for more avant-garde design, for bolder, more expressive design. And it begins actually way before they even call you. If on your website, on your Behance page, or wherever people are going to find your work, if you're putting up really beautiful, dramatic, bold, expressive typography, chances are when they call you, they already want that from you. This is an issue about positioning. So then comes the question of the chicken and the egg. Well, I want to do this, but nobody's hired me to do this. So it's a game of chicken, like where two cars are looking at each other, which one will blink first as they race towards each other. So what I would suggest is you should blink first and first always. Take it upon yourself to remove the risk element of them trying a design that they've never seen before from you. So what I would do is, this is what you do on the side, it's what you do after hours, is what you do on the weekends. If you love something, if you want to move in a different style that your current clients aren't allowing you to do, well, make that work that you want them to hire you for and put it out there. So at least then you can point to something you've done. When we were just doing animation and typography and we wanted to shoot live action, our clients were scratching their head and saying, well, why would we hire you for that? We can't trust you to do that. Well, the way you earn the trust is you either shoot some spec stuff on your own, or you make certain assurances that it'll work out, as if it didn't turn out well, you'll pay for it to be reshot by somebody else. And those are good assurances to make. The next thing that you can do, like I said, is to build potentially a stylescape, a mood board, a style tile, something like that, to say, I've heard what you said, I've come back with a couple of visual things for you to look at just to gauge your appetite, your taste level, and what you want to do. What I heard was bold and brilliant and impactful, and here are 2 different takes at it, and I've just curated some elements together, some designs for you to look at. As we're talking about in terms of the stylescape or style tile, this lets your client get comfortable with the idea that they might be in for something really bold and dramatic. And if you've never had spicy food, you don't want to give them that ghost chili at the very first taste. You want to give them steps in between. You want to bridge that gap with them, for them, so that they can come into the fold. That's the other way that you can do that. And lastly, what I would say to my client is this: if they were riding along the entire time, the position was correct, the stylescapes said to them they want to go bold, and then they have a little kind of commitment phobia right at the end, and they look at this bold thing like this Vignelli poster, you can say, my job is to grab somebody's attention on your behalf. If we go more conservative, we run the risk of somebody just looking at this and saying, meh, I'm going to move on. But you cannot walk away from this. This is beautiful, it's bold, it's very striking, and I dare to challenge them, it's still super simple.
So I like what you said, Chris, because essentially what you're saying is that if you want to do more creative work like this, you show that work on your portfolio, and then you attract
Absolutely.
the types of clients that appreciate that work, rather than pushing that upon them and hoping that you can like sell that idea to somebody who hasn't necessarily seen that before.
Yeah, it's really tough that way. You're just bringing up the law of attraction. Like attracts like. If you want to do bold, beautiful, expressive typography and nobody will hire you for that, well, put that stuff out there. Like if you look at Aaron and myself, we're sending out a certain kind of energy. Let's cut to Aaron full shot. He's got tattoos running up his forearms, probably all over his shoulder and his back and everywhere else. He's got some kind of faux hawk going on. He's got a goatee. He's got all these orange colored shirts and everything else. So he's got a definite vibe that he's rocking with the sunglasses clipped on. So he's going to attract a certain kind of person, a certain kind of client, certain kinds of friends. You can imagine like where he lives, the car he drives, and the music he listens to. And then cut back to me. Just for the show today, guys, I'm wearing my white shirt with my... what is this, Burberry tie. I'm all buttoned up because I'm trying to be very professorial today for you guys. And so I'm going to attract a certain kind of client with my little designer glasses.
How would you approach practicing typography at home by yourself?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I must admit, people always ask about, is there a great book you can recommend? Is there a way to learn type? And I have yet to discover it. So perhaps what we're doing today will help you. And if I gave you guys an assignment to work on and you worked on it and you shared it with the community and you watched the video again, perhaps you can pick apart the things that were not working. But it's very difficult to self-study this because you need somebody who can guide you through the process of learning to see and picking stuff apart. Very good question, though.
Someone's asking, is there a proper font for a certain job?
I think typefaces come most often with a little personality. Most of them come with a little personality. Like if you use a script typeface, would that be appropriate to set for a boxing poster? That would be unusual. It would be very unexpected and it might not work. I don't know. And so certain typefaces have a feeling. For example, if you use Engraver's typeface, which is very similar to what you see on Currency, and you want to make something feel really official, like it's a stock certificate or it's, I don't know, like it's money, then use Engravers. But if you use Engravers for a kid's playhouse, that might feel really funky. So choosing an appropriate typeface that has a tone that matches what you're trying to communicate is really important, and that's why it's important for you to learn about typefaces and to know their personalities. Interesting side story here. I'm helping my son out with his YouTube channel. Some of you guys know this. And we're looking at typeface, and I asked him, what typeface are you using? He's like, I don't know what typeface. So you just grabbed a random typeface and you used it. Whereas my 13-year-old son is like, you should use Helvetica or Futura. And my younger son said, Dad, do you like that typeface? And we both look at each other like, duh. But the whole point is, he had said to both of us, you guys can tell the typeface by looking at them? Well,
It's a gift and a curse.
yeah, you're supposed to. You're supposed to learn these things, and he's not there yet. It's debatable about his taste level, but that's okay. Don't tell his mom. All right, let's keep going.
Why not justify? I noticed in other typographic videos, justify aligning wasn't used. Any reason or theory behind it? And
You mean forced justification?
I
He
don't,
didn't specify, just
Okay. Now let me explain a couple of things, and I have to get back into Illustrator. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay. There is an option here. I think it's in the paragraph. Let me hit tab, bring that back. So if I take this paragraph here and I justify it, which is this one right here, that's what justified type looks like.
oh,
Okay? What justify says is the column width, take the words that are on each line and insert spaces in between to fill the entire width. Newspapers, some magazines do this because it looks more orderly. But what happens is you're creating these rivers of type, these uneven letter spacing that looks really weird. Now, when you get into experimental type, this is something that you might want to do because it kind of makes it look more like dabs of paint or brush strokes versus letters. The way that you should use this is considered flush left, rag right, versus justified type, which is pulling the entire line to meet the margins. That's all. I think that's what they're asking, and that's why we don't do that, because it's very difficult to read, and it
And the
creates very
rivers.
uneven space, rivers, gaps, whatever you want to call them. They're not good, not desirable. I'm gonna give you guys an assignment, so you need to pick. Do you want to pick comic book artists, skateboarders, or artists in terms of graphic designers? So comic book artists, skateboarders, or graphic designers. Tell me which one you want, and I'll tailor an assignment for one of those categories. Okay? So you guys need to let us know in the comments, because the comments are going away really fast.
mm-hmm.
So comic book artists. So just say comic.
People
Skateboard.
are saying
graphic
right
designers.
now comic. There's 3 comics.
Okay, you guys will continue to tally that
Okay.
unofficially, whatever seems to be the stream. I think, are we done with the show, guys?
I think.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
So let's cut to this title card and then roll out of here. Thanks very much, you guys. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your donation and your continued support. Love you guys.